last week on the Al Nicoletti Show. Without further ado, Ben, what is going on, man? We are live.
Working with Al has definitely been an extremely positive experience. Any probates you have in the state of Florida, I would definitely send him his way. Highly recommended.
What would you say has been the biggest lesson you've learned jumping into real estate?
The biggest determination of how far you can go is yourself and the beliefs that you put on yourself. There's really no limit to how far you can go and the things that you can accomplish as long as you yourself believe that you can do it.
That was a great point.
You can actually hire people on your team that are better at doing certain things than you are. That's what allows you to grow a business as opposed to being a solo entrepreneur. I realized that it's not about how fast or how hard I work at something. It's about how fast I can delegate that task.
I love that. I think that's great advice for a lot of people out there. How do you better educate the sellers on novations?
Ultimately, what the sellers are looking for is they're looking for an easy way out of their problem. And even if you're selling to someone else, you can still provide them that solution as long as you are transparent and they're confident that you're going to follow through on your word.
Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for being on and sharing this stuff.
All right, brother. You have a great day. Thank you so much.
You too. I'll talk to you soon. Always love watching the recaps on the Al Nicoletti Show, all the guests that bring the content and the gems and all the amazing value when it comes to the real estate game, whether it's in business as an entrepreneur or whether it's talking about lifestyle. We love when the recaps come on and we see who was on last week. If you missed any of the episode, make sure you go back and check it out on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, all the methods. You can listen on the go. And you can catch the Al Nicoletti Show on YouTube under Al Nicoletti and the Facebook page and business page under Al Nicoletti and all the micro content that's constantly dropping on Instagram, whether it's the show, probates, partitions, quiet titles, all the crazy things in the real estate world. We have it drop all on Instagram. I have another amazing guest on the Al Nicoletti Show tonight, Andrea Stakes. She is amazing. I love her energy. I love her passion. I love where she's going and what she's doing in her business. And I can't wait to dive in with her on what's been going on in the last year. There's so much to talk about. So I got my pen ready. I got my paper. If you want to engage and interact on the episode, make sure you ask questions, drop comments. You know we love when the fans are dropping comments. We see you all out there. So we want to make sure you all engage. Andrea will comment back, so you'll see her there. So I'm ready to go. It's another Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. I'm always ready for this stuff. I can do it at 3 o'clock in the morning. So let's rock this thing. Hey, everybody. My name is Al Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida. And welcome to the Al Nicoletti Show, where I bring on real estate super investors, rising rock stars, movers and shakers, and leaders of clubs in their community that educate, entertain, and inspire all things on Florida real estate and bring in the best in the industry. Whether it's talking about virtual assistants, commercial land, Airbnbs, marketing, branding, lifestyle changes. We've had a lot of interesting things with that. Talking about productivity, mindset, mind shifts, you name it. When it comes to running a business, running a real estate business, whether it's real estate or real estate adjacent, we bring on the best in the industry on how you can take your company to the next level. On my show today, I have the amazing Andrea Stakes. She brings so much great energy. I love her passion and her drive for what she's doing in her business. She's been crushing it in her business game with virtual assistants, and how she's leveled up over the years is just very impressive. And I can't wait to bring her on to talk about everything that she's been working on in the last year. And before we get her on, one thing I've been doing is having Al's opening thoughts. And my opening thoughts are today, things are going to come up in your business during the day, that little bumps, little things in the road that may try to throw you off. You got to stay calm. You got to stay cool. You got to stay steady and ready, because that is leadership. Right? Leadership is where you could truly take control of the situation and you know how to handle it, and you know how to also influence others on how to handle those situations. You don't know what comes up. Something may not come up until 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and it may be a fire you have to put out. But don't let the fire just start ruining the rest of your day. You have to take control of the situation, turn it around, figure it out, solve the issue, and move on. And I can tell you that probably happens with so many people in their business where things come up throughout the day and it just can create so much chaos. Steady hand, steady leadership is the key. And I can't even wait to dive in on that with Andrea Stakes tonight. So I'm excited. I can't wait to bring her on. So without further ado, let's welcome her to the show, Andrea Stakes. Andrea, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in so long.
I know, it's so good to see you. Oh my gosh. And Al, I promise, like before the show and, in the past, I've been listening to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't realize when I was watching that recap that you guys did it live, like on video. So I was already feeling the energy and getting hyped up, but watching the recap, I was like, I need to watch the Al Nicoletti Show every morning so I can be as fired up and passionate about my life. So thank you so much for having me on, and hopefully we get to do the same thing to other viewers. So thank you, Al.
I love it. No, thank you for being on. Thank you for the kind words. A lot of people think that introduction's actually like pre-recorded and we like snip it in there, and it's not. Like that's like, this is a live show, live episode. So we have a lot of fun and we love bringing guests on like you. I mean, this is where it really takes form. So Andrea, I just want to say before we get into some of the big things that we're going to talk about, it's crazy. I feel like the last time I saw you was at the Hive Mind Conference, August 2022. It was an awesome time. We went jet skiing. We had an amazing presentation, a blast being there. And ever since, I feel like so much has just changed. And I mean, and you hadn't been on a podcast in so long, and I'm honored that you get to be on the show to talk about where you've been, like what you've been up to, like what changed, what happened. So I just want to say, to start the episode, for a lot of people that are listening out there, you want to stay glued and stay tuned to this because she is about to talk about what she's been up to in the last year. So I'm excited. Andrea, I've been jumping into like a big question in the beginning, which is getting into the real estate game or getting into your real estate business as with virtual assistants. What was the biggest lesson or lessons that you learned jumping into the real estate game?
Ooh, that's a good one. To be honest with you, I think the biggest lesson was my very first one. I think that when I was 22 years old, I was working my 9 to 5, and in that moment, I knew that I didn't want to work this 9 to 5 anymore. I wanted more. So I found real estate investing, particularly wholesaling, as, one of the exit strategies in real estate. So I said, okay, I'm going to learn all about wholesaling. I'm going to, get financial freedom, time freedom, travel freedom, all the things I want. I'm not going to have to work at Best Buy anymore. So I started to explore and educate in real estate, thinking I'm going to be a great wholesaler. I'm going to be able to get everything I want. And then I quickly realized, as I educated myself about real estate in the whole, that I was trying to squeeze into a area that wasn't my right fit, right? So I realized like that negotiation, the house stuff, like, drywall didn't fire me up at all. It wasn't my thing, right? So I realized, I was at this place where I'm like, I'm still working the 9 to 5, but I'm about to quit. Should I give up? Should I just go back to being an Uber driver? And I'm like, hold on, no. Like, I have had way too many nights where I've, worked on my business and worked on the 9 to 5, and then had the, 5 to 10 p.m. And I'm like, I've come way too far to just, give up, right? So in that moment, I said, well, if wholesaling is not for me, I need to realize what were my strengths, right? What were my passions that I had in the industry, to not just give up. Like I needed to realize that there was an opportunity for me to pivot. So I started Integria Virtual Staffing, which is my virtual assistant company. And it was built around my strengths. It wasn't built around all the YouTube university videos I watched about wholesaling and negotiations and getting the best price. It was around what I loved, what I found through real estate that I loved. I loved communicating with people, building relationships, networking, and meeting people like you, Al, and helping people, helping homeowners. And I realized that when I started my company, I could do that. I could help investors find the best talent to bring onto their teams. I could help my team and be a leader to them and show them that they can communicate with homeowners. And it's not just reading a script. I found ways to find my strengths in the industry. So I guess the biggest lesson like I said, I was 22 and it hit me right in the face, and I use it to this day, is that you need to understand that when you're going into real estate, there's not just a one way to get into real estate and be successful. There are over 80 ways to make money in this industry, and you are not just stuck in, doing one thing. Wholesaling is not the only way, and it's the I guess it's like the most popular or the sexy way to get into real estate. But you can make money being a software that someone needs, being a service provider. You can find a different exit strategy. You could go to law school and be a probate lawyer and be amazing. There's so many ways, so you have to pivot and not give up. And I am a perfect example of that. So that's, I guess, my biggest lesson.
I'm glad you talked about that, because a lot of people, when they hear real estate or real estate investing, the first thing that they're doing is they're thinking wholesaling, right? Or they go to the RIAs or they go to a conference and they hear wholesaling. And a lot of people think that's the entry point, right? Like, and it's amazing when you get into this world, you see all these other opportunities, whether creative financing, getting into commercial, right? You're an end buyer, short-term rentals, long-term holds, whatever it is. There's so many other avenues, like you're talking about. There's like 80 or probably so many more too, where you can get into this industry. And like you said, software like CRMs and all these other ways that you can help scale and manage someone's business. But that brought me back to a thought that you mentioned, which was when I think it was like either before the bar exam or after the bar exam. I remember thinking, when you take the bar, you pass it, you go work as a lawyer. And I remember somebody saying, hey, if you don't get a job right away, there's so many other things you can do with your law degree. And at the time, I'm thinking, like what? Right? Like what? Like what's out there, right? But now hindsight's 2020. I see title companies and all these other industries in real estate, whether it's having your own brokerage, as a realtor, as a broker. So great point. And this is to anybody that's like trying to think about what's next for them or what they're trying to do, is that Andrea's point is there's so many avenues. You don't have to think it's just one lane. And I love that approach that you just talked about, because that's something that it really hit me when I was early on, like 27, 26, like about what's next. So love that. Andrea, this next part really excites me, because I was warmed up about what journey you've been on in the last year, and like things that really changed even since I saw you at the Hive Mind conference. And this question I've been asking lately is very impactful for people, because as entrepreneurs, we always want to strive to keep churning our business, to keep grinding, to keep waking up every day at a high level, to keep making money, to keep performing like we do every single day and having that sustained energy. What do you do? What changed? What happened? What do you do to maintain high performance and high performance execution and mentality at all times?
That's a good one. And it sounds, exciting, because it's like, how can I be the best performer? How can I, operate at my highest potential? And I thought, let me go ahead and read more books on it. I thought, when I was like, I want to be a better leader, I want to show up, and grind harder every day. I had thought it was a mental thing, but I realized, although it does have some aspects in the mental area and, being able to have like that toughness, I didn't realize how important it was for me to go back to how does my physical affect my mental. So the first thing I did to really kind of get me into a place where I could be a top performer was I started focusing on my health. So I'm recently vegan, and vegan, it means I'm completely plant-based. So I listen, I love me a good, steak. I love some cheese, nacho cheese, all of that. But I said, hold on, like, let me go ahead and make a change and see what this does for me and my body. And I went plant-based, and I cut that some more for my meat lovers. But for me, when I went plant-based, I started seeing so much more clarity. I was waking up with energy, and this is just my opinion and how it affected me. So,
Right.
When I went plant-based, it completely changed like the discipline I needed to have. Sometimes, I'll go to events and networking events, and, real estate investors love meeting up at the fancy steak dinners. And sometimes I have to be disciplined enough to just have that salad, but I'm waking up the next day and getting on stage and feeling pumped up and energized. I do that every day, waking up in my business too. So just something, food for thought. If somebody's like, well, how can I switch up, things physically, but I think the big thing, other than just my diet, was actually doing the 75 hard challenge. So I did that. I failed 4 times before I got it, but I did it, and I accomplished it, and I'm proud to say it. And on the 75 hard, in short, you essentially have to do 2 workouts a day, 45 minutes, 1 outdoor, 1 indoor. You have to read 10 pages of a book. You have to stick to a diet, and you have to take a progress picture and drink 1 whole gallon of water a day every day for 75 days. And you've messed up, you have to start over. And I messed up a lot. And so I made it through, and I thought that it was just going to take me to the next level in my fitness, and I was going to look great and be hydrated and have great skin. But what it really did for me was it taught me to have more discipline. And I realized, I wouldn't be able to say no to that 45-minute workout in the rain. I wouldn't be able to say, no, I don't want to finish this water. Like, I'll just finish it in the morning. I also realized it transferred into my business. And for me, just being a leader, to say, hold on, no, I can't just skip that meeting, or no, I have to put out this fire, right, with my team. I have to help them now. I can't just say no, because there was no excuses when I did that challenge. So it definitely, those 2 things, going vegan and the 75 hard challenge, were things that I didn't think were going to, keep me at that high performance level. But it really changed my life. So
what were some of the temptations on the phase that you finally completed the 75 hard? What were some of the temptations during that journey, and the mentality that you knocked it out of and said, no, we're not doing that? Like, what was those roadblocks?
Okay, 2 things. I actually forgot one thing. You can't drink alcohol. So I actually have, for me, I would socially, have a drink with it, like my networking events. I would have a drink, or I would, go out and get food and get a cute martini because it had smoke or whatever, and it exploded, it has glitter. That was like a thing for me, And when I started going to networking events, a lot of people would have that, drink and then socially drink. For me, when I was traveling, I wish I had it, but I have this big gallon water bottle, and taking that and emptying it out on the plane, and then taking it with you and carrying around this gallon of water, while you're dressed up in like a nice business casual thing, and I'm slinging this gallon of water with me and finishing it. Those were things that I was like, oh, like, I just don't want to bring it, or maybe I can just, enjoy this. But I learned that there's alternatives. Sometimes when I didn't want to bring my water bottle, I would just count my glasses, and then there's really good mocktails. So there's always a solution. You just have to look. So
yeah, I love that you went on that journey, not just for the health aspect of it, like the physical part, but also realizing that there were other levels to what that journey would show, which is the leadership stuff, the discipline, the other attributes that you probably had been striving for internally, but how do you get there? And it kind of just showed you the way, and you did it yourself. I love that you did that. And that, in essence, kind of took on why you kind of pivoted in the market, right? So like there was a big market shift after or during like that August time I saw you, and a lot changed after that. So talk to us about pivoting in your business. What was it like pivoting, and how did you pivot? What did you do?
I love that. Right after August, we were jet skiing and enjoying it. I actually went through a pretty tough time in one sector of my business, which was the real estate, marketing side, where I was able to find cold callers and have callers on people's investors' teams, making calls and generating outbound leads. Around that time, I started to see decrease in leads from my investors, all my clients. A lot of clients were like, Andrea, we don't know what's going on. We're just backing out completely. We're just going to pick this back up next year. Like, I saw a lot of people leave real estate. It wasn't just, my company. I saw it just across the board in real estate. And in those moments, I started to realize, well, how can I still serve my clients? And I have all this great talent that were my virtual assistants in the Philippines. There's so much talent. And I said, how can I, move this talent to, maybe it's not just cold calling. Maybe I can have them do other roles in people's businesses. And I had people start taking on their virtual assistants and say, you know what, I think I'm going to move to another strategy. I'm going to move to SEO, or I'm going to, move to social media marketing or ads or texting. And I said, this talent, if they can get on the phone and call homeowners and, work with, those tough conversations, if you can have a conversation on the phone, you can do anything through text. You can work on admin. You can do these things. So a lot of my investors were like, Andrea, I don't think cold calling is the way at this time. I was able to pivot and put that talent elsewhere. I have, people that went into, executive assistant roles, or people that had moved into other actual niches. So I have investors that, said, I'm not really focused on my real estate business. I'm going to go ahead and focus on my solar business. Can I transfer my VA's talent into this? And I said, of course. So that's one way that I had to, pivot when it came down to real estate, moving people into different roles. But I also was able to say, hold on, real estate, at the end of the day, it can move around and it's not straight shot. So I said, let me go ahead and find a way that I can find different niches and different avenues that I can put this talent in. So I've moved into finding, C-suite level talent. I've had plenty of people get executive assistants, that right hand for their business. I've helped people in medical. I'm currently working with contracts in food and beverage industry. So there's so many opportunities. And I realized, when I say that I have a global business, I didn't realize, what that really meant until I had to pivot. And I realized there are so many people out here that I need to be able to try to serve. And since then, we've expanded the business outside of real estate, which is my baby. Of course, like I said, 22-year-old Andrea was like, real estate's my life. I love it. I'm always going to have real estate VAs. But now I have talent that's not just only in real estate, but everywhere else. So.
Yeah. And you bring up a lot of different points that we are definitely going to talk about. And the one that kind of seems like I want to get it out and talk about this one is when the market changed, all of a sudden everybody started going somewhere else. They backed out. You had people that said, we're doing another niche and stuff. And I remember you mentioned to me, the biggest struggle is when things get tough, people just cut everything. And you need to look at your team to be more prosperous in your business. And you said the ones who doubled down and get feedback, did training, those performed at a higher level. And I think that is something that people need to take away of don't just back out of stuff, really go down in it. And I remember there were a lot of people at a conference I was just at. They said when everybody, either it was COVID or when the interest rates started going up, people backed out of their Facebook ads or people backed out of their Google ads. I remember somebody said when that happened, they went all in. So it kind of made me think of what you were talking about. Let's elaborate on that. What does that mean, the double down part?
Yes. So I had a lot of investors that did, change their task that their VA was in. But I had investors who were like, okay, so, we're not going to get as many leads. The investors that sat down with their virtual assistants, because I don't just give virtual assistants, we hear VA and we're like, oh, that's just, someone who's going to clock in and send me leads. My VAs are like family to my investors. So they sat down with their team and they got to their level and they said, talk to me. What are you hearing? What's going on? Oh, that's the problem. Okay, so we're going to bring on 2 more people. You're going to train them and we're going to go ahead and hit it a different direction. And the investors who went ahead and stepped down and actually, became greater leaders to their team and communicated with them, that doubled down and got more virtual assistants. These are investors who are closing deals back to back and have full pipelines as of today. Now, I will say a lot of my investors that kind of backed up around the end of the year last year are coming back in and, they're like, hey, Andrea, I'm back. I'm ready to go. And they're doing great too. And they're starting back up and they're, working with the VAs again. But how many steps ahead are my investors when times got tough and they doubled down? They said, well, let me find the problem instead of running away from it. They're already so many steps ahead. So I think that's kind of what I'm seeing.
Yeah, especially in a market like this. And if you find that niche that you're in, it's time to really hone in on that. Of course, if it's blowing up, if that market's all cooling down, maybe you got to change. But if you have the team around you and you have the resources and you have the right niche, why start making drastic changes, especially when everybody else is, right? It sounds like the herd, following the herd, everybody's going off the cliff, you go off the cliff. No, you need to, like Andrea's talking about, really hone in on your team, double down, try to figure out if there's tweaks and different things you got to make in your business, because just making those small tweaks may have major impacts on your business later on. So that is really cool. And I think another thing that you and I talked about, which is really interesting, is once you kind of pivoted in the market, once you had your change and everything that was going on in your business, you went into more of I need to solidify my vision and mission. and really start focusing on the rebrand. Talk to us a little bit about what that's been like, because for a lot of people, they don't want to change, right? What's comfortable, or what's going right now, they feel comfortable, they don't want to change. But I always say now, when you're uncomfortable, that's when you're growing, and you realize that things have to change. You have to solidify your mission, like you talk about. Let's elaborate on that.
For sure. So I think for a while, when I was 22, I started the company. We grew really fast. Since then, we've hired over 1,500 virtual assistants. So we grew quick. I mean, I'm 25. It's been 3 years, right? My company's coming up on our 3-year anniversary this June. And that's exciting. But when I really took this moment to step back and say, I think it's time for us to rebrand and, get a not just a different look to Integria, but kind of a different kind of groove going. I said, hold on, like, where are we now? I sat down one day and I said, we scaled so fast from, the first year. We brought on, hundreds of VAs, hundreds of investors, and we were able to handle them and still keep quality. But I realized we kind of stayed doing the same thing. We stayed just providing one quality thing over and over again. And what I realized around the time where I had to pivot in my business, I realized that, there was something that I used to do that, I stopped doing. And I think, to be honest, it's why when I was going nomad, I was traveling a lot, I was moving around. I had that time freedom because, the business was completely automated. My business is automated now still, but at that time I was just like, let me travel and network and do this and just find more investors for this one thing. And I had to stop. So I stopped being a virtual nomad. I got an apartment. I went to Virginia and I stayed down for a year to kind of figure out, how do I bring that spark back? I feel like there was no innovation. I felt like I was just staying in one niche. We were doing great, but I said I wanted to do more. I wanted to find more talent. There was so much talent that I had to reject. We literally get, over 900 applications every week for my business.
Wow.
900 every single week, sometimes over 1,000 new applicants. And I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm really only bringing in, maybe 20 to 30 people to actually go into my training class. And from there, we select fewer. And I said, what about all that other talent? There's talent that just maybe didn't have cold calling skills, or talent that just didn't have one specific skill set we were looking for. But they did have my core values. They did have skills I could find in different, areas. So I said, let me sit down for this year. I've recently gone back nomad in the past 2 months, actually 4. I went to the Philippines. So I said, let me go ahead and think of what I can do. I found multiple different businesses, between bookkeeping to just customer service to sales. Like I said, food and beverage. I went into different areas, still keeping real estate, of course. But I had to take a moment and say, let me find my options. I flew to the Philippines, spent 2 months with my team finally. I'm half Filipino myself, so I connected with my culture, but also finally saw these people in person. And we really kind of said, you know what, we're going to bring the spark back. And that spark was just being able to have innovation and, stay true to the vision to, keep on globally impacting people and spreading our impact into other areas. So I think that would summarize everything.
Yeah. Yeah. What was that like, meeting the team for the first time? Because like, if everybody's virtual, right? You don't have that same in-person connection. Like you talk to people on the phone, you kind of develop that phone relationship, or you talk to people on Zoom. It's all virtual. But then you go to the Philippines and you meet them the first time. What was that like?
The best ever, Al. I want to go back so bad. I'm in Austin, Texas right now for just 2 weeks. And I'm over here in my Airbnb and I'm like in my co-working space. And I'm like, I used to love that I could just be like solo traveling and just, do whatever I want. But I'm like, I miss like having my team with me. When I was in the Philippines, man, we had a blast. Like meeting them, when I first met them, number one, everyone is so short and amazing, just as they told me they are. Like my whole team is like here to me, except for my one sales guy. He's like 6 foot. So he's my oddball, but everyone's so short. And they all like, just ran up to me when I first met them, and to see them and interact with them in person was just incredible. Because, for 3 years, every single day I'm in front of my management team. These are people I've developed relationships with, people I've come to care about, people who respect me and care about me. And for us to be able to hang out. And then after we clock out of work, we're not closing our computers and doing our own thing. We're closing our computers and going to karaoke. We're closing our computers and I get to meet their families. I get to see their cars they've been able to buy because of working with me. It was just a blast, Al. And it's something that I will always remember. And I'm so grateful for that opportunity to finally meet them, because I told them, we've built this business completely virtually in the past 3 years. We built it off of Zoom and some Google Sheets. And of course, we've grown into different softwares and all of that. But we started with just a video connection and something to write on. I said, how much more powerful and how much more can we do if we meet together and actually have that energy in person? How much more can we do? And we definitely worked on a lot of stuff. So I'm so excited to be able to bring that to, anybody who needs it. So super excited for that.
I could see that being just important for anybody listening, that if they have a VA or they have some kind of virtual assistant out there, that eventually, I mean, team meetings are good, maybe to finally have that summit, that meeting where everybody gets together and says, hey, let's kind of talk about how things are going, like what's happening. I remember meeting Christina, one of my personal assistants, for the first time, and we were at the trade show in Orlando, and it was just so funny because like we're always on the phone together, but like when you meet the team, like it's just so different, right? So I love that. I could also see going back to the Philippines just to have like the Andrea Stakes meeting, like at this time of the year or twice a year, whatever it is, to just grow and just connect and learn more about what they're doing. Cause they probably felt more of a personal bond too by you being there. Like they got that connection, like, oh, this is her. This is the amazing Andrea. Like we get to actually meet her in person. And what's really interesting too that you talked about and how you pivoted your business was the hiring of assistants in specific roles, right? Not just hiring any kind of assistant to fit one role, but I remember you talking about C-suite executive assistants and other types of personal assistants. You called it unique hiring, not just hiring, unique hiring for the roles.
Yes.
What's that been like, and what have been some of those unique hires that you've implemented in your business?
I love that. Well, I definitely can start with this. We're not very traditional when it comes to hiring. At the end of the day, we get tons of applicants. My talent acquisitions inbox is like thousands deep of resumes, and resumes are important. But I always tell them we're going to look a little deeper than the resume. We can ask certain questions when we do hire. We have our initial filtering process. We want to make sure that they have that rigor, that they actually want it, that they're not just, we're not one of the spam emails that they put in. But when I get to the nitty gritty and we find talent that matches certain qualifications and that stand out to us, we bring them in for the interview. But I guess when I talk about unique hires, we hire with intention. Although we might be hiring in one niche, 30 people in a week, and then I might be looking for an executive assistant for somebody, which is very direct. In another avenue, my talent acquisition teams know that we're not just bringing in talent to clock in and clock out every day. And I'm also not just accepting clients who come to me and say, I just want a VA, right? So I'm usually coming in, and from both ends, because we meet in the middle, that's where my agency meets. We end up, we'll manage and create that connection. So it's a win-win on both sides. My client success team is over here and my talent acquisitions team is over here, right? They have a lot of stuff they have to do before they meet in the middle. My client acquisitions team is interviewing my clients, because we're not just accepting any clients, right? So while the VAs are getting interviewed, my clients are getting interviewed. I'm finding out, what do they really need? Because a lot of people, when they say, oh, I want to hire a virtual assistant, they're like, I just need someone to come in and fix my life. And like, I hear that so often. And I'm like, listen, same here, but what needs fixing? You have to find out, what do you need exactly? Because I can put the best life fixer and, that I can find with you, but, what are you going to have them start with? What do you actually want? And you're not going to be successful. That's why we have a client success team who comes in and says, well, tell me a little bit more about what you're looking for. What do you need to delegate ASAP? How many hats do you have to delegate? How can we help you? What are your strengths and weaknesses? And what is my client's personality type? So when I guess one of the unique things we do is, if I notice I have a client, they're from New York, they're very like, time is everything, I need to go, and they crack a few jokes, but most of the time they're very direct. I'm going to write that down. My sales team is going to say, hey, talent acquisition, did you get any talent that was really good in this and can do this and this, but their personality will be able to handle like a D-type personality if we're talking about DISC? Then they'll say, you know what, I did. I had this one executive assistant that has experience in that. But they would definitely be a good match because they smiled and laughed, but they were very serious. Perfect. Let's put those two together. They'll go very well, because it's not just, can I hire a bunch of talent from the Philippines? 100%. But can I find the talent that's going to stay long-term with my clients? Because when I hire from my team, I'm making sure, even though I have a diverse team at this point, you know, I have over 40 people within my operations that run Integria, and they're all different personality types. They don't have to just be excited like you and me, right? I think we share the same personality, but I'm not gonna just have a bunch of those people coming around, because it's just gonna be too much. We wouldn't get any work done. Right. And so one of the unique things we do is match their personalities. And I think that helps with longevity, because the way I hire, I want to keep my people long term. So when I went to see the people in the Philippines, I'm not seeing a bunch of new hires. I'm hugging people that I've been wanting to hug for 3 years. So.
Right. Yeah. And like you were talking about, personality types, that's everything, right? Can you imagine if you had another Andrea with you right now? I mean, it's like I could see it being like an explosive conversation back and forth, but like high energy. But then it's like with two personalities, you know, you have one skill set and the other person needs to have another skill set to be able to level up, right? You know, so like you want people that are going to have different attributes than what you have that can help on things that you don't want to deal with or things that are not your style, right? So that's personality types. I can think of so many things in business. I think I remember being at a Yellowbird meeting here in Jacksonville, and this had to be a year or so ago. And the concept of partnerships came up, and they were talking about like, if you're going to be in a partnership, can you imagine if you had your same person as your partner? No, I mean, like, you want to find the right fits that are going to work together with you. So, I just love the fact that you're getting into that unique hiring for unique roles for certain things that are going to make your business run. And one thing that is really interesting that we talked about is talent, finding the talent. And how investors would come to you and say, I need somebody that's going to have more talent, or finding somebody that's going to have higher talent. And then like you find them, that person with higher talent on a higher pay scale, and they come back to you and say, it's still not the talent I'm looking for. And you're like, wait a second. Whoa. It's not about the talent here. Like, you had this epiphany. What was that epiphany that you had about this finding talent thing?
You know, I think I want to start and just be honest. I kind of found that out when I found out that I was the one doing that. So, you know, when I was looking for a leader in one of my positions in my company, right, I was thinking, you know, okay, let's go ahead and put this job out. We're going to go ahead and establish a leader in this new sector of my business. And I'm like, you know, I need them to be this. I need to meet them at this level. They have to have these specifications. And when we started getting this talent, and I'm like, okay, this person's definitely qualified, overqualified. This person's this. You know, I had people come in for a trial period, and I recommend that for any hire, having them do a working interview. And I started to realize they're just not the best fit, but they're so qualified. They fit everything I was saying. And I realized, hold on, do I have this leader somewhere in my organization now? Are they in front of my face? And they were. So I had a VA that came in as the base level VA. You know, they actually came as someone who's like, I have no experience, but I'm willing to get trained. And they did. And they showed up, and they had moved up a couple roles in my company. And I'm like, this person has always been growing. And this person, when's the last time I had a meeting with them? It's been a couple months. And I'm like, you know, I need to do a skip level. I decided, let me come down below, you know, my operations managers who typically will meet with them. And I met with this person. I said, I think it's time for this person to move up. They still have that same fire 2 years ago. They might not have the qualifications, but did they learn everything along the way? And a lot of my investors that come in and say, you know, Andrea, I want to hire somebody that's going to be like my lead manager. I have 7 callers with you right now, and I want a high level person. Go find me someone with 5 years of experience. And I'm like, hold on. Sometimes it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. Sometimes your talent is right in front of you and they've been working and showing you they're the right hire every single day, right? So I had investors, I said, why don't you look at your team right now? You have 7 VAs. Who is the person that shows up every day? Who is the person who goes above and beyond? I said, that's your lead manager. And I said, look over them for the next 2 weeks. And I want you to see who's doing that. I want you to start doing small trainings with the team. Ask them to kind of do that step above cold calling. Tell them to go ahead and do a follow-up call. Listen to them. See who asks you those questions. He found not only his lead manager, but he found someone he could move into dispositions. And now he ended up hiring more people, which meant more jobs for my people in the Philippines. He ended up having a fully functional team from within without me having to just charge him for me finding someone with X amount of years experience. There's so much. It's an epiphany that I had with myself that I realized my investors could do to find the talent within their team. So,
yeah. So it's about leading, right? It's leading the talent and finding great leaders that can lead that great talent. So what are the things that the leaders need to focus on to lead that talent? Is it the communication? Is it having more trainings, having more meetings, having more reviews? Is it, because I love when different entrepreneurs talk about, hey, every Monday at 9:00 we have a 15-minute meeting and we talk about what went right, what went wrong, what do we need to do differently, forward thinking ideas. So as the leader, what are those things that in Andrea's mind they need to do? Like what do they need to focus on?
I think that as entrepreneurs, we want to be able to delegate and elevate, right? So we can bring on team members in our business and help us, take off those tasks on our plate so we can focus on bigger and better things. We can focus on the $1 million task by delegating the dollar per hour task. And we're like, okay, great, I've done it. I got my team. But when you are doing those $1 million per hour tasks, you got to remember to stop and look back because, they're driving the business forward. But you have to remember that you can't just completely, think that things are delegated. You don't have to touch it anymore. You have to remember to stop and come back and look and say, where are things moving? Take time to analyze. It's kind of like as an investor, you can think of this analogy, you don't just buy a list and then put it on SMS blast and then just like leave it and let it be. You have to kind of say like, well, out of those lists that I bought, which one is performing? How can I go ahead and focus here? You might have performers that are not performing and you have to say, well, what's going on? Should I move you to a different place, a different area? Do I need to have more meetings? A lot of investors I know will go and hire VAs and not want to meet with them ever. And I'm like, hold on, this is your team. I always just say establish meetings, consistently train your team. You have to pour back into your team. You have to be able to grow with your team. So I definitely would recommend that. And I would say, keeping that schedule is one of the biggest things.
Yeah. So ideally in an Andrea Stakes world, you have your whole team meetings, or you're guiding somebody on what you would do as far as hosting these team meetings. What would your Monday through Friday look like?
I would say for me, my Monday through Friday is, I'll have a specific meeting for my management team, but I'll also have a specific meeting for, like I said, skip level where I won't be with my managers, but I might go down to who they're managing and be able to meet, some of the, we call them like level 4 team members. Instead of me going direct there, I'll have a meeting with my direct management, but then also kind of make sure that their team is doing okay. So I would say for you, make sure you have your management team meetings. I have them every Monday, and then I have my skip levels during the week as well. And then also make a team meeting for yourself. Yeah. Sometimes as CEOs, we have so much going on that we end up talking to ourselves, and sometimes we talk back, but you need to take a moment for you and say, hold on, let me meet with myself, at least have a day just to you amongst the chaos, and then go from there.
Yeah. And I think it's finding a really good rhythm that makes sense, that you can implement consistency and sustainability to, right? So if you're going to implement these systems Monday through Friday with your team, it's got to be, you got to do it every week. It can't just be you do it the first week and then it all falls apart, right? Like if you're going to do something, you got to do it consistently and find it. So, and just take responsibility as a leader. I think the epiphany that you had with this stuff and what you've realized in your business over the last year is just huge value for people that are always thinking, what do we do? How do we change? And, should we, right? And I talked on another episode that change is good, right? People look at changes. I don't know. Should we, no, make the change, right? If you're going to make the pivot and you know what you need to do, make the change. Andrea, I love it. And I think it's amazing what you're doing. My favorite part too is the travel that you've been doing ever since. Like, you got back from the Philippines and it's like, all of a sudden you're like, what am I doing? I could do this anywhere. I'm going here. I'm going here. I'm going here. And see, I felt that energy. I felt the same thing, right? Like, I can go anywhere. What's happened? Like, what's next for Andrea Stakes on this journey?
Well, I'm officially back nomad. I think the Philippines inspired me. So of course I accumulated some more stuff before I moved and settled down for a little bit. I was living out of 2 suitcases. And so for me, letting go of forks and spoons and my nice air fryer, I was able to, say, let me let go of that. So that was very relieving. It's not gone. It's in my parents' basement. Okay. So
yeah,
I'll get it back one day, but to only have what I need and being able to have that flexibility to travel and just pick up my laptop and work in these co-working spaces, it's been great. I'm back officially because, I have so many people that I want to network with. So right now I'm just kind of hopping around in the States at this time to, meet my different investors, clients that I'm working with. I'm in Texas a lot right now, working with some of my bigger clients within the food and beverage, because one of those niches is, requiring me to find not just one great VA to one investor. I'm having to build out teams of 40 people for huge companies. So there's so many different things that are happening, and I'm really just taking it as, as I'm getting called, and hopefully I'll be able to swing back to the Philippines before the end of the year. So it's been a lot of fun, and I'm incorporating a routine though. So I'm still, making sure I'm getting I'm meal prepping. I'm not just eating out every day. I'm still incorporating that discipline into my life, even though there's that flexibility. So this time around, it's different than the first time, but moving forward, I'm just, putting myself in positions where I know I can win and taking care of me and my body and just, going with the flow.
I love that. And it's implementing that routine that's going to help you out, because if you can maintain that routine, that's you just having completely changed what you were ever doing before in your lifestyle. It's a lifestyle change that you can just keep implementing and it doesn't leave you, right? Like once you do it, I forgot who said this, but once you do it after 4 weeks, it's becomes ingrained in your mind and you just keep doing it and focusing on that. I felt that in my journey, still do to this day. So that it's implemented, right? It's ingrained. I love that. Andrea, two things that we talk about before we wrap up the show, which is hot topics. I've loved this concept lately because hot topics is something that's been ongoing, right now, bubbling at the top of your mind at your business. You're hearing about it. There's been chatter about it maybe in the last couple of weeks. And I remember you were like, oh my gosh, AI, this is a crazy topic. What's been going on with AI in this world?
Oh my gosh. So, I'm thinking, okay, all the real estate investors are like, Andrea, we want you back. We need our VAs back. And I'm like, okay, great. Things are good. And I'm like, all right, so people are getting back on marketing. They're not giving up. I'm inspiring people. And then everyone's like, hey, our AI is going to erase all virtual assistants. AIs are going to replace the world, replace our jobs. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Listen, I love AI. I think AI is incredible. I'm not going to go deep into it, but what I'm going to say is that AI is going to be great. It's going to be a great assistant to the assistants. I know a lot of my clients are using AI within their companies and they're having their assistants learn it. AI backed by that human touch is going to be able to, definitely increase productivity within VAs, but they're not going to replace your VA. I think that at the end of the day, there's a lot of things and tasks that they might replace. At the end of the day, you might not necessarily need the copywriter to, spend hours and hours trying to think of what can I write and, what kind of copy can I make? They might have AI, produce it within a minute opposed to a week. And at that point, what does your copywriter do? Are they going to be out of a job? No, they can now use that to produce better, copy faster, and they can move into different areas where they can elevate them. So AI is either going to have people elevating with it, or it's going to essentially replace you if you do nothing about it. So I think that's just been something I keep hearing. And I'm like, listen, I have people come in and they say, hey, I'm going to just pause, my assistant. I love them. I'll send them birthday cards, but I'm going to go ahead and stick with AI. And then they come back and they're like, yeah, can my VA do the AI stuff? And I'm like, so.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people think that it's just going to completely replace the human element to things. And I'm constantly reminded that even as much posting and videos and social media that we do in the law firm, I'm always reminded when I go to these networking events that there's just such a difference between that virtual world, in whatever virtual world you're in, and then going into that in-person meeting world. And there's just some special vibe that seems to click when you do that. And I totally can see how it's not going to entirely replace all this other stuff going on in your business. Like, I mean, it's I could see it having a role. I could see it having a huge impact, but you're going to have to work with people. I mean, people aren't being replaced. We're not in a robotic era. I mean, yet, but we're not in a robotic era. So I love it. I think that's a great hot topic that you've been through. Andrea, as I do with all my guests on the Al Nicoletti Show, at the end, I do a segment called Final Words, Final Thoughts. That can be anything on the health journey, where you're going, what's next, anything with VAs, any tips or tricks, anything that you're thinking that you feel could make the biggest impact to somebody out there. And especially having been through the journey you've been through over the last year. So as I say, final words, final thoughts, Andrea Stakes.
I would say, to sum this up, we talked a lot about pivoting. We talked a lot about don't back down. But I think the best way I can say it is this quote that has stuck with me. It says, don't let your fear of failure overcome your desire for success. So I'll leave it at that. You got to pivot and remember that every single day.
Fantastic quote right there. I think people could take so much from that and learn that the change is good. Pivot if you need to pivot in your business, and it's for the better. It's all going to work out at the end of the day. Everything happens for a reason. So, Andrea, it's so good seeing you. I love talking to you. I miss talking to you. It was so fun going jet skiing. It feels like just yesterday. And I'm so proud of you. I'm excited for you. I can't wait to see what's next on your journey. Keep going. Don't stop, and just keep scaling it and keep going with the health journey. It's all amazing, all for the good. So I can't wait to see you soon at a conference near wherever we're going.
Right. Can't wait. Thank you, Al, for everything. Thank you so much.
Of course. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Take care. All right, everybody. If you missed any part of that episode with Andrea Stakes, an incredible journey that she has been on in the last year, you have to go back and watch that segment. Andrea has completely pivoted in her business in the last year. Again, I saw her August 2022. And it's amazing how since that time, she's just made dramatic changes to her personal life, her professional life, where she's going with her team, learning just so many different things along the way. And I think that's so valuable for people because everybody's in this grind every single day, just doing the same thing, same grind, Monday through Friday. But you got to take the time to think about and reflect on what's working in your business, what's not working, what do we got to change, what's going on with the market, what's everybody doing, do we double down in our business, do we focus in even harder in a niche, right? I think there has to be a lot of reflection and thought provocative things that are going through your mind that can help elevate your business and just start thinking more than just doing. Think more. I like that better. So, all right, everybody, if you want more content like this, make sure you check out the Al Nicoletti YouTube channel under Al Nicoletti, the Facebook page, the business page, the Instagram at Attorney Nicoletti, and all the amazing guests like Andrea Stakes on the Al Nicoletti Show on season 1, season 2, season 3, season 4. And we're going to keep on rolling. You know, we are live every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, like tonight, no different. We love the fan interaction. We see all of you out there. So I'm so happy you all tuned in. And, join us next week, Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. We go live. Thank you again. I love it. Andrea dropped so many gems. I love guests like this. I will see you next week, Wednesday, 9 p.m. See you there. Take care.